Okay, so now we are starting the Mishnah Torah on Kidush Hashem and Chilul Hashem. Perek Chamishi. Here we go. And we're gonna. I opened up the Sefer Mitzvos just in case we need to refer back to it, because a quick review of yesterday. So we did Chilul Hashem, and he says that it's the opposite of Kidush Hashem, which sounded nice, and then when he ended up talking about it, it didn't pan out like it was the opposite, because he was very specific about the categories. He says there's two categories on everyone and one category on individuals. The category on everyone is, the two categories on everyone are the giving up your life when you're in a particular type of situation, which he defined. Second category on everyone is if you do an avera just as a rebellious act without any pleasure or enjoyment. And then the one that's unique to individuals is if you are someone who has a reputation and is well known for your perfection, your chasidus, and you do something even that's mutter, which causes people to be, to look down on that. That's a Chilul Hashem, but that goes proportionate to your to what's expected of you. So we noted that those last two categories don't show up in opposite form in Kidush Hashem. So that's just one thing to note. And then I said that in the Mishnah Torah, these categories will show up. All right, so let's see how it goes here. Kol Beis Yisrael mitzuvin al Kidush Hashem hagadol hazeh. Shneimar v'nikdashti b'soch b'nei Yisrael u'musharin shlo l'chalalo shneimar v'lo sechalulu es Shem kodshi. So the entire house of Israel is commanded regarding the sanctification of this great name. As it is stated, I will be sanctified among or in the midst of Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, and they are warned not to desecrate it, not to desecrate the name, as it is stated, you shall not desecrate my holy name. Okay, two questions here. First of all, I don't know what the deal is with Kol Beis Yisrael. I think that's a little odd.
Right, I was wondering that. Like, does that mean the previous halacha are not?
Right. I mean, yeah. If anything, Kol Beis Yisrael is commanded in Yichud Hashem, Emunah B'Hashem. Also, I don't know if the Rambam uses this phrase elsewhere. And in fact, maybe we should do the responsible thing and check. Give me a second here. Let me share. Just open up to all Torah and do a search. Just give me 1 second here. Sharing all Torah. Okay. Oh, did any of you see all Torah's new feature? The extension, the Chrome extension. Okay, so check this out. Let's try it out. I haven't actually tried it yet. So let's say I type in Kol Beis Yisrael. Okay, so I can highlight it, right click on it, and there's a drop-down menu that says, or a menu option that says search allatorah.org for Kol Beis Yisrael. So this makes it very easy to go directly from any highlight of anything on any page to searching. So that's nice. But what we want to do is we want to select the Rambam Mishnah Torah, and then search for that. Kol Beis Yisrael.
Wait, did it just show how what percentage of the Rambam it's filling up? What was that half green thing? Like, did it only fill up like half the box?
This thing? Oh no, because the category is Rambam, Torah, v'Shulchan Aruch, and I only clicked Mishnah Torah.
So it's only the third of the box, like a third of the box. Is that what's going on there?
No, I don't think that's a third. I think it's just partial. Like,
oh, okay.
Yeah. Like, I don't think it changes if I click other stuff. But why is it not searching? Oh, because I didn't type anything in. Reset. Kol Beis Yisrael. Okay. Yeah.
I think the audio might be better if you plug in your mic. It'll have the high pitched noise, but your voice won't be going in and out.
Okay. So is the high pitched noise back?
Nope.
Okay. So this is the frustrating thing. Is it seems random. Okay. Anyway, so as you can see from this, there are only 4 places in the Mishnah Torah where he says Kol Beis Yisrael. One is our halacha. Kol Beis Yisrael Mesuvin Al Kidush Hashem. Second one is in Hilchos Tshuva. Nahagu Kol Beis Yisrael Harbas B'Tzedakah V'Masim Tovim. So that's talking about the practices during the years made Tshuva. Third place is in Hilchos Tefillah Birkas Kohanim. It's not even in that. It's in the Birkas Torah. So that's not. It doesn't even count as the Rambam, because that's just like the Nusach Tefillah. And then in the Seder HaTefillah, it's the same thing. So really, this is the only time he characterizes a mitzvah as being commanded upon Kol Beis Yisrael. Noteworthy, I'd say. So I don't know what to make of it, but
I have a very weak answer.
All right, go ahead.
I'd say a pretty weak answer.
Okay.
Maybe this is something that seems like it's like extreme midas chasidus.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's saying this is actually like the halachic structure on everyone.
I hear the weakness.
I like the
Havamina. I like the Havamina, but it doesn't satisfy me. What doesn't satisfy me?
It feels like it should apply to more things still.
Maybe, but that's not what doesn't satisfy me. I don't know. Yeah, maybe it was just a gut reaction. I'm not sure. I have another weak theory also, that and this one is subject to the problem you just said, which is the Rambam in the Mishnah Torah, when it came to Kidush, in the Sefer Mitzvos for Kidush Hashem, that made a big deal about how this is like a national thing, and how like there's a shame to the nation, a cherpa, a disgrace to the nation if we don't do this. So there is something about like national identity that, the Torah does use the phrase like, what's the phrase we use? Shenikra Shimcha Alav, right? But I feel like there's a phrase they use like the people that God's name is proclaimed upon, So like I feel like there is a national identity dimension to this this mitzvah, but that's subject to the reputation you just said, or not reputation, to the kushya that you just said, which is I feel like this is not the only mitzvah that should have this.
Yeah.
Right, like it's not even the first. Like, isn't like Yichud Hashem also like a national? Like that's kind of like a defining feature of the also.
So I can say is different because, and this is also weak. That's an individual phenomenon. Meaning, I think because it's not manifest behaviorally, it takes place in the mind of each and every individual, then it doesn't have that same characteristic as being a national identity thing. Now I know that is very weak because like you could say that for any national identity, like I don't know. I'm not sure about that answer. Yeah, I don't know. And it's funny because the Pesukim don't even like distinguish it, right? It's just Mikdash B'Sof B'nai Yisrael. I mean, there are tons of mitzvahs that use B'nai Yisrael, Like if it said Beis Yisrael, like fine, I'll agree with that. But yeah.
Maybe if we come up with enough weak answers, then quantitatively they can add up to a strong answer.
I think I just went over. No, I did. That's a different fallacy. I went over a similar fallacy in my English class today. Okay, fine. So maybe I'll ask this on my my Facebook places and then see if anyone has an answer. Kol Beis Yisrael Mesuvin Al Kidush Hashem Hagadol Hazeh. Now this is another thing that caught my eye. Al Kidush Hashem Hagadol Hazeh, on this great name. So naturally, where would you look to figure out what he means by a Hashem Hagadol Hazeh?
Right beforehand. Right?
The problem is that if you look right beforehand, he doesn't say a name. He talks about, right beforehand was in the end of Perek Daled, where he's talking about Ma'aser Merkava, Ma'aser Bereishis. So if it's not right beforehand, maybe it's talking about the shame. I mean, I assume that if I can't keep using that phrase, if I hold a gun to your head, it's gonna get old, or maybe that'll make it get good. But if I hold a gun to your head and say like, what name is he talking about? What's your gut reaction and why?
I don't Yud K Vav K for sure.
Yeah, but why?
That's the proper name of God, I guess.
Yeah, so you could say so. I think that's definitely gonna be the answer, but you could say it's either because that's the proper name of God, or you could say that the iyun of the last four prakim was all Yud K Vav K. you know, and as alluded to by the opening halacha of Perek Aleph of Yesodei Zos V'Amrachachmos. But like it is really our relationship to that Shem Hashem, you know, that's ultimately what it is. So that's my best shot at Hazeh. You know, if it just said Hashem Agadol, I would say what you said, which is that it's what is the great name out of all of Hashem's names is that one. But Hazeh does point to like the antecedent, and the antecedent is not the last halacha; it's the entire last 4 prakim. Okay. Yeah.
Clarify how the first 4 are specifically relating to Yud Kei Vav Kei.
Yeah. So certainly Anochi is relating to Yud Kei Vav Kei because that is the Anochi and Yichud Hashem are related to Yud Kei Vav Kei because that's the idea of God as an independent existence who is absolutely one, right? Like those the 2 mitzvahs of Anochi and Yichud Hashem don't make reference to God's actions. That's just God's essence, right? And then the same thing with Lo Yeh Lecha, because Lo Yeh Lecha is would be a violation of those. And then Avas and Hashem and Yiras Hashem are both via appreciation of God's other attributes, which is his actions. But the way that the Rambam phrases it is, you know, so you're filled with a taiva to know God himself, but the most you can do is know him through his actions. And same thing with Yiras Hashem. So it's a yearning to know God as he really exists, but you're doing it via the actions. So all 4 of those mitzvahs are relating to God himself, to the Yud Kei Vav Kei, but the only way we can do it is through Aleph Daled Nun Yud, through his mastery. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So all the other names have to do with his actions.
All the other names have to do with his actions. Yeah. Yeah. That's the Rambam in the Moreh Nevuchim of B'yom Hu Yeh Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad, that the level of knowledge of God, you know, right now is only through his actions. That's the only way we can really have knowledge of him. But you know, it's funny because when he says B'yom Hu, I thought he was talking about Yemos Mashiach. Obviously, we still are going to be limited in Yemos Mashiach. So I can't remember if he was saying how like just the knowledge of God is going to be so great that it's going to be as if we're all relating to Hashem through knowledge of his essence, or if he was applying that to Olam Haba. I don't think he's applying it to Olam Haba because I don't think he uses B'yom Hu in that way. And I also just alluded to right now, that's also why we read Yud Kei Vav Kei as Aleph Daled Nun Yud, because Aleph Daled Nun Yud means refers to God's lordship, which means how he governs his universe, which is his actions. And so when Yud Kei Vav Kei is referring to his essence, so we avoid pronouncing the name that corresponds to his essence to acknowledge that we can't know his essence, and we only talk about his essence via Aleph Daled Nun Yud, because that's his mastery, because that's the only way we can relate to his essence. Yep. Okay. So now he says Ketzad. Okay. So it's unclear right now what the Ketzad is going on, because he just listed 2 mitzvahs. So we'll see it's going on both, but not immediately. Okay. Ketzad. How so? Bisha sheya'amod goy, at a time when a non-Jew arises, v'ye'enos es Yisrael, and coerces a Jew, la'avor al achas mikol mitzvos ha'amuros b'Torah, to transgress one of the mitzvahs of the Torah that are stated in the Torah, o yahargenu, or be killed, ya'avor v'al yehareg, he should transgress and not be killed. So that's the first case he talks about, okay, is transgress, not be killed. Shneimar, as it says, ba mitzvos, regarding the mitzvos, asher yaseh osam ha'adam v'chai bahem, that man should do the mitzvos and live by them, v'lo shiyamus bahem, and then Chazal say, not that he should die by them. V'im meis v'lo avar, harizeh mischayev benafsho, and if he dies, meaning if he allows himself to be killed, and he does not transgress, so then he's liable for his soul, okay, which obviously doesn't mean that they execute him again, because can't do that if you're dead. Yeah. Okay, so what strikes you as interesting about this? I've got loads of things here.
One is that V'chai seems to be like a din in Kiddush Hashem.
Yes, so that seems to be clear, that even though he doesn't say the words, Harazeh Kiddush as Hashem, which we'll see he says later on, and that's going to be another problem, is this is an answer to the Ketzad. How do you do these mitzvos? Is by I forgot to close my whatever. Is by by yavor v'ayahareg, by transgressing. Yeah. And the other interesting thing, I mean, based on this, the implication is that if you allow yourself to be killed, then at the very least you are not being mekadesh Hashem, but at the worst you're being mechalas Hashem. But he doesn't say any of those things. He just says mischayev benafsho.
Right. Also, what does that mean that he's allowing himself to be killed? Like, if they're gonna kill him, they're gonna kill him. Like,
right. Well, but that's the thing is that I think the case is not where they're gonna kill him no matter what. Is they're saying, violate this mitzvah or I'll kill you. So if he refuses to violate the mitzvah and then he gives up his life, then he's allowing himself to be killed.
Got it.
Sorry, I missed the last minute or so because I got a phone call.
Yeah.
Did we discuss the fact that this seems to be this is the example that he's giving of Kiddush Hashem and Chilul Hashem?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about right now. That first of all, it's one example for both of them, seems to be, and then it sounds like Asher Yaseh Osam Hadam V'chai B'hem is a Kiddush Hashem, even though he doesn't use the words Kiddush Hashem. And then the Im Meis V'lo Avar sounds like a Chilul Hashem, but he doesn't say that either. Here's another question. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Was that a lead-in, or you just wanted to know what you missed?
Well, I wanted to know what I missed, but
yeah,
it was. I was going to say something about that.
Yeah. Here's another question. Why are you mischayev benafsho? What's the mechayev of that, or like what is that an onesh for? Or a liability for? I guess it's technically not an onesh because you're not actually being punished for it.
Well, I guess if we say that it's included in Kiddush Hashem and Chilul Hashem, then it's like if somehow whatever, we have to explain this, I guess, but if dying in this case would be a Chilul Hashem, so that would be in the
Right. So the two candidates that immediately suggest themselves are failing to be Makadesh Hashem or being Mechalas Hashem, right? But I think there's a third possibility.
Wait, a third possibility for why
you're chayav for your nefesh, why you're liable for your life.
Because your life wasn't yours to give up.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be akin to shvichus damim, to murder, like allowing yourself to be killed. And we know that is a thing where, there's ritzicha, which is, I think I mentioned this yesterday, there's ritzicha, which is murder, and that's chayav hereg, that's chayav the death penalty. But then there's, if you do shvichus damim, which is, bringing about someone's death, including your own, you're chayav misa b'dei shamayim, Now, I don't know if misa b'dei shamayim is ever framed in terms of mischayev benafsho, but the point is that allowing yourself to die when you shouldn't have allowed yourself to die is liable for your life, and I think this is strengthened by the fact that we're going to see in the next halacha that the fact that he didn't say harizeh kiddush Hashem and harizeh chilul Hashem, that's significant. So let's read the next halacha and see if that changes our analysis here. Oh, one more point I want to make. This case is always mentioned in terms of if a goy arises and forces a Jew to violate one of the mitzvos, but like the question we have to ask is that just an example, or is it if anyone, like if you're forced to like violate a mitzvah due to anything? Let's say for two examples I can think of. One is, let's say another Jew forces you to violate a mitzvah, so then like you would think that would also fall into the same category, but then why does he say goy? Again, maybe that's just the common example. And then the other case is like, let's say you are, let's say just a regular case of sakanas nefashos, right? Like you are, I don't know, you're fasting on Yom Kippurim and like you find yourself in mortal danger, So we hold obviously that you should not fast and risk dying, but rather that you should yavor v'ayahareg, So is that a case like this also, or is that a different category? And the reason why I'm asking is because later on in this parak, he's going to talk about cases of sakana, but then he really reserves sakanas nefashos for the beginning of Hilchos Shabbos, or for second chapter in Hilchos Shabbos. So like, what's the address of that? So the question is like, how much do we read into this scenario of Shiyamod Goy? Hold on a second. I keep on getting this Facebook message. I forgot to close my Facebook window. Yeah, okay. You hear the question? Alrighty. Okay, so let's read on. Oh, and by the way, you also notice that he's presenting this in a different order than he did in the Sefer Mitzvos. Because in Sefer Mitzvos, he said, "Ha'chelik ha'klali harishon shekol mi shedarshu mimenu labor achas min hamitzvos b'shas hashmad v'haya ha'anas mischavin lahavir bein b'mitzvos kalos bein b'mitzvos chamuros o mi shedarshu mimenu labor avodah zara o gilui rayos o shvichos damim v'afilu shelo b'shas hashmad harizeh chayav limsor nafsho v'yehareg vel yavor." So he leads with yehareg vel yavor. Here he's leading with yavor vel yehareg. Don't know what to make of that. Okay, and it gets worse, because check out what he says now. Bamei davarim amurim, under what circumstances do we say ya'avor v'ayahareg, that you should transgress? Bishar mitzvos, with regards to the other mitzvos. Chutz me'avodah zara, v'gilui arayos u'shvichos damim, except for the big three. Avodah zara, gilui arayos and shvichos damim. And again, I said it yesterday, but I'll say it again in case people are only listening to this one. Avodah zara is not just the act of bowing down, but the implication is any losase of avodah zara. Okay, and I guess we'll have to see how far that extends. I mean, like, is it anything in Hilchos avodah zara, or is it like, in other words, it's more than just one act of bowing down to an idol. Like, but the question is, how far do we extend it? Okay, gilui arayos, technical definition of gilui arayos is the sexual prohibitions that you're chayav kares for that are mentioned in Acharei Mos. So there's certain things that are not gilui arayos that are still sexual prohibitions. And then shvichos damim, I said the fact that it says shvichos damim is broader category than murder, than ritzicha. So I think that that's the case. Okay, but again, I guess we'll have to see. Aval shalosh averos elu, but these three transgressions, im yomar lo, if he says to him, avor al achas mehen o tehareg, transgress one of them or be killed, yehareg vel yavor. Yeah. So it's weird. I'm disturbed by this. That it's that.
It sounds like this is
like, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like this is an exception.
Yeah,
to
right. Yeah, it sounds like the primary case is Yavor V'Ayahareg, and then when do we apply that paradigm of Yavor V'Ayahareg? Only not by the big three. But if it's the big three, then you kill yourself. You kill. It's not the way that we think of it, and it's not the way that he frames it in the Sefer Mitzvos. Okay, then we got more qualifications here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that the next paragraph also leads up with the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of that, but it seems weird to me.
Yes. Yeah. Let's read it and then bask in the weirdness. When does this apply? Okay. Now I think it used to confuse me when I read this halacha. I think what he means is, when does this distinction apply, where we distinguish between giving up your life for the big three and then transgressing for all the other ones.
Yeah, this is a good example of how it gets much more confusing if you don't use the Rambam's paragraph breaks.
Mm-hmm. True. Right, because then you think the Bamei Devar Memorim that you give up your life for the big three.
Yeah.
Or maybe, yeah. I mean, I think it would lend itself to that. Okay, so let's see. Bisman goy mischavin hanas atzmo. So this distinction only applies when the goy intends to make you violate the halacha for his own pleasure. Kigon she'anaso livnos lo beso b'Shabbos o levasho lo tavshilo. Like when he compels you to build a house for him on Shabbos or to cook a dish for him. O anas isha leva Allah. Or he compels a woman to like he rapes a woman. And other things like that. Aval, and see that, okay, hold on a second here. Yeah, see that's a problem. Well, we'll get to that in a second. Aval imnis kavin lahavir al hamitzvos bilvad, but if he intends to just make you transgress the mitzvos alone, meaning not for his own pleasure, so then we say im hayabeno levein atmo, if they are in private, the in shamasar Israel, and there are not 10 Jews present. Okay, so again, private here means there's no minion. Yavor v'ayahareg. So then he should transgress and not be killed. Vim anaso laha aviro ba'asara mi Yisrael. and if he compelled him to transgress among 10 Jews, Yehareg val Yavor, then he should let himself be killed and not transgress. Even if it's only on the other mitzvos. Okay, I'm going to summarize this in a second. I have a chart that I made, but let's just read one more qualification. And all these things, shelo b'shas hashmad, is not at the time of shmad. Again, very weird contrast to the Sefer mitzvos where he started off b'shas hashmad as the primary case, in Kidush Hashem and in Chilul Hashem. Okay. So shelo b'shas hashmad. Aval b'shas hashmad, but at a time of persecution, okay, then he defines it. Hu shiyamun melech Rasha Nebuchadnezzar b'chaverav, like when the king Nebuchadnezzar, the evil king Nebuchadnezzar, and his friends arose. V'yigzor shmad al Yisrael levatal datam o mitzvahim and mitzvos, and he made a decree upon Israel to abolish their religion or one of the mitzvos. Yehareg val Yavor. So then he should be killed and not transgress. Afilu al achas mishar mitzvos, even when it comes to one of the other mitzvos. Bein ne'enas, whether bein ne'enas b'soch hasara, bein ne'enas bein alvein goyim, whether he was compelled in private or whether he was compelled in front of 10. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me just show you the flow chart. The flow chart. Stop sharing. Share flow chart. Okay, so tell me if this. I think this is correct. It better be correct, because if it's not, then I've been teaching it wrong for the last like 7 years, and maybe there are a bunch of kids who got killed, Kidush Hashem and didn't need to. Okay, so you have here at the bottom, Yehareg val Yavor on the left. You give up your life rather than violate the mitzvahs, and you have Yavor of Yehareg on the right. You have the big three, and you have all other mitzvahs. Okay, so the rule is you always give up your life for the big three, no matter what. With all other mitzvahs, you have to ask: is he forcing you to violate these mitzvahs for his own benefit, or is he forcing you to violate them for just to make you violate them? If it's for his own benefit and it's one of the other mitzvahs, then you do Yavor of Yehareg. If he's forcing you to violate the mitzvahs just to make you violate them, so if it's in private, then you can violate the mitzvahs and live. If it's in public, then you have to give up your life. And if it is during a time of religious persecution, then you give up your life for everything. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, I think the religious persecution comes before the other two that you put on the same level, right?
It comes before the other two.
Meaning.
What do you mean before?
I'm saying. The,
meaning that, yeah, meaning in the tree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. That could be clear.
Well, I mean, organizationally, it's the same. Like.
Right, but I think what Isaac is saying is, but meaning during the, meaning it's not really a three-way decision of, is he forcing you to violate it for his own benefit or for its own sake, or is it persecution? It's like, first question you have to ask is this time really this persecution? And then you could go straight to the Yehareg. But yeah, I think that's a good point.
Wait, I did have a question though on his lashon.
Yeah, so let's go back to the lashon. I also have a question on his lashon. Yeah. Oh, are you meant to be muted?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
We're still showing the flow chart.
Oh, sorry, you're right. Share screen on the lashon. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was actually, this is something David had raised.
Yeah.
The fact that he says, Imhaya beno ben atzmo. Wait, no. Yeah, 1 second. I forgot where it is. Yeah, I'll find it.
Okay. I'll ask my question. Anas isha leva Allah. Okay, or if he rapes a woman or forces a woman leva Allah to have bia, right? So my question on that is, that's not one of the Gilui Arayos.
Yeah, well, I think Shabbos isn't one of the things that's Yarug Shabbos isn't.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're
right.
What am I saying? All right, so maybe that's not a question then. Did I get that question from somewhere else and I'm just plugging it in here? Yeah, you're right. What am I saying? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I'm doing? Duh. I'm answering the question, but thinking that it's a question. Meaning, the question people ask is, isn't that one of the Gilui Arayos? And the answer is no. Sorry, I'm still jet lagged. Yeah.
Well, it's a good answer. It's not
Yeah,
a
it's
good
a good
question.
Yeah, that's the answer, right? So in other words, if this were a case of most cases, well, I can't even say most cases, but like if this were adultery, so then you would have to give up your life, and you wouldn't even be asking this question of is it for the benefit or not. But since bia with a goy derech ishus is lo sasem in the Torah, but it's only chai of malchus. It's not chai of misa or kares. It's not chai of kares is the main one. So then it's not one of the arayos. Yeah. Okay. There you go. Answer that question.
Okay, I found my question.
Yeah.
Or David's question. So he says in Gimel, I guess he says no, not that. Shoot. I lost it again. Oh yeah, sorry. In base. Med Marmurim. Manche Goy Miskaven Lanas Atzmo. Blah 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 blah. Right. And then he says, but aval im miskaven la viro al mitzvos bilvad im haya beno ben atzmo ensham asar b'Yisrael yavor val yarig. So that sounds like he's saying if it's miskaven la viro, then you're over it. But if it's not, but if it's hanas atzmo, then you wouldn't be over it. Is that correct?
Yeah, if it's Hanas Atzmo, so this is how I'm reading it. Bamei Devarim Amurim that we say, okay. Bamei Devarim Amurim that we say Yavor V'al Yihareg by other mitzvos and Yihareg V'al Yavor by the big three.
Mm-hmm.
So we say that distinction if he's doing it for his own benefit, which means that anytime he's doing it for its own benefit, then we always give up our lives for the big three, and we never give up our lives for the other mitzvos.
Okay, but if it's Liskaven Laviro, or
if it's Liskaven Laviro, then we make a distinction: is it in public or not? And if it's not in public, then we Yavor V'Yahareg, and if it is in public, then we Yahareg V'Yavor.
Oh wait, okay. So you need two conditions. Okay, you need it to be Niskaven Laviro and in public for you to.
In order to be Yahareg V'Yavor for exactly.
For wait, finish that. What was that?
For the shar mitzvos, for all mitzvos except the big three.
Okay.
Yeah, let me do this. So let me share the flowchart again and show you how I'm reading it with the Rambam's lashon and the flowchart. Let me just get my physical Rambam. Hold on just a second so I can be looking at it. Just 1 second. Okay, so here's how I'm reading it. I guess this part's okay. So we're starting off. So in Halacha Aleph and wait, wrong place. Halacha Aleph and Beis is establishing that you give up your life for the big three, and you Yavor Yaharig for the other mitzvos. Okay, but Bamei Devarim Amurim, under what circumstances do we make this distinction? Bisman Hagoy Mischaven Lahanas Atzmo, at a time when the goy intends for his own benefit. So that's what I mean here is if that clean distinction of Yavor V'Yahareg for other mitzvos and Yahareg V'Yavor for the big three, that's only if he's forcing you to violate the mitzvos for his own benefit. Okay. But if he's forcing you to violate them just for the sake of violating them, so then im haya beino levein atzmo ve'in chamasar misrael yavor v'yahareg ve'im haya anasa lahavir b'asar misrael yahareg v'yavor. That's how I'm reading it. We good?
Yeah, I'm just trying to take in the flowchart. Do you mind if I take a picture of it?
Oh, sure, yeah. Sorry, hold on. Let me share it again. Hold on. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me share full screen. Clicking. There.
Thanks.
All right, but I'll have to change. I'll have to make Isaac's change that he suggested later. Okay.
Wait,
So
hold on. Just clarifying. So there are really either it's shmad or you have both of those factors together, that it's in public and it's niskav.
Yeah, let's do this. Let's fix it on the spot here. So it really should go something like this. Let's move those up. It's gonna get messy. Actually, this might be too complicated to do on the spot. This guy is supposed to be like up there, you know, and like is supposed to splinter off into yeah, this is gonna be messy. I'll have to do it on my own time for tomorrow. You know, it's supposed to look something. No, that's also wrong. Forget it.
It's just no religious persecution.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Alrighty. All right, so let's go back to the thingies. Yeah, as long as we know what to do. Okay, so I think there's one more point I was gonna say. Oh yeah, just as a side point here, this whole thing with the Nebuchadnezzar Harasha when he makes a persecution on Klal Yisrael. So, you know, I mentioned this yesterday that the classic case of Yehareg Val Yavor is Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah. So they bow down to the statue of Nebuchadnezzar. The problem is that it wasn't clear that was Avodah Zarah. Okay, so because he was just doing it to demonstrate his power. They didn't believe that the statue was a god. So the question is, why did they give up their lives? So one possible answer is that it was Avodah Zarah. Okay, fine, fair enough. Another possibility, which the Rambam, well, the Rambam is not so clear on. Okay, second possibility is that that counted as Shas Hashmad. Okay, and therefore, even though it wasn't Avodah Zarah, then they had to give up their lives on it. And the question then would be like, well, what exactly was the Avera that they would have been doing by bowing down to it? I mean, you know, I'm not sure. And then the other possibility is, and this is a whole machlokas rishonim of, can you voluntarily give up your life al Kidush Hashem? So I wanted to mention that, but then the other thing I wanted to mention is, do you know the other incident in Sefer Daniel that involves Yehareg Val Yavor and Yehareg with Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, and Daniel? Again, people don't really learn Daniel, so.
Isn't there the lions also?
So there's the lions, but I think, if I remember correctly, that I haven't learned in depth. I think that was just a punishment. I think they're just trying to straight up kill him. There's actually two other cases I can think of now. Okay, one case, I'm getting my Daniel mixed up, because he davened and was spotted and put to death, or was condemned to death. But there you can easily argue that he didn't think he would be caught. But then the real case though is that when Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah are first captured as youths from Malchus Yehuda, they are put on a diet of non-kosher food. And it's called the pasbag, which is a type of food that the king prepared for them. And so what they do is they try to get out of it, and they ask to be fed lentils instead. And the whole question is, why didn't they just eat it? Okay, and they were worried that they were going to die if they, you know, if they violated it. So one of the big questions is, like, why did they risk their lives to not eat the non-kosher food? Like, they should have just eaten the non-kosher food. So one answer that's given is, and this is a funny one, is that it was Avodah Zarah because they were treated as gods, because Nebuchadnezzar gave them new names He gave them Hanani, Meshach, and Azariah. He called them Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, which were all names of the Babylonian gods, and that therefore the food that was being given to them was takrovis avodah zarah, was avodah zarah offerings, and therefore they couldn't have eaten it and they had to risk their lives. That's one answer. Another answer is that it wasn't avodah zarah, but it was still considered a shas hashmad because Nebuchadnezzar had laid siege to Yerushalayim and was trying to annihilate the Jews, and therefore they should risk their lives on even shar mitzvos. So anyway, that came to mind when he says Shialon Melech Russia Nebuchadnezzar v'chaverav. So the question is like, when is this talking about in Nebuchadnezzar's reign? Like, because technically speaking, Nebuchadnezzar, I mean, he destroyed Yerushalayim, but it's not like he wanted to wipe out Judaism like what's his name, like the Greeks, and it's not like he wanted to wipe out the Jews themselves like Haman, like that. I mean, I guess you could say that maybe he was trying to do that when he waged war, but anyway, my point is that Shas HaShmad is not so simple. Like the Rambam defines it as if the Rambam just said V'yigzor Shmad al Yisrael levatal datam o mitzvah min mitzvos, so then that would be pretty straightforward. But the fact that he brings Nebuchadnezzar Harasha into it actually complicates things, even though it's an example. Yeah. Okay. All right. Shall we move on, or is there anything else here that we need to work on? Okay.
It's interesting that the Rambam specifies rape as not part of Gilei, because the pasuk. I'm actually doing this with David. Like the pasuk that the Gemara brings to like is what's it called? Is
Nara. Right. Yeah, that's true. That's why, like, if this were rape by something that's Gilei Arayos, then it would be Gilei Arayos, right? Like if this was a case of rape and adultery, but with a non-Jew, then it would be considered Yavor V'Hareg.
But even if it wasn't rape, right? Like it would still be the same Gilei Arayos, right? Like
but I think the Chiddush is that even if it's rape, meaning like let's say for example like a man, a Jewish. I mean, again, here I'm assuming that this does apply to Jews also. Let's say a Jewish man goes to a married Jewish woman and says, sleep with me or else I'll kill you, and so she is really chayav to let herself be killed rather than submit to rape, because that would be Gilei Arayos, and that's the case that the Gemara is talking about. Even though it's ones, because rape is clearly ones, and the Rambam himself said in the Sefer Mitzvos that this is a case of ones, But like, this is a question. I get, this is a point I didn't really bring out yesterday, is that you see. Okay, this is a point. There's a just interesting like thing in Judaism is like, I think we think of like coercion or ones as like a binary category, that like either you are doing it voluntarily or you're doing it under ones. And it's true in terms of the legal classification, that's the case, yet halacha still demands that you make a decision, even though it's a case of ones. Like if someone's holding a gun to your head, we say you have to give up your life or violate, depending on what the halacha is. And if you fail to do so, we don't put you to death because it was ones. That's like b'diavad. After the fact, we say that this whole thing was ones, but l'chadchila, you are responsible for making the right decision. Yeah. Okay. So now this is where it gets complicated. That wasn't complicated. Okay, this is where it gets complicated. Kol mi shenemar bo yavor v'al yehareg v'neherag v'lo avar harizeh mischayev b'nafsho. Okay, anyone about whom it is said, transgress and don't be killed, and he is killed and he does not transgress, harizeh mischayev b'nafsho. So then he's liable for his life. So that was what he said in the first halacha. Okay. Yeah, I think he's repeating it because he's classifying it now. Let's see if that answer stands up. So anyone about whom it is said he should be killed and not transgress, and he is killed and does not transgress, so then he sanctified God's name. V'im haya ba'asar Yisrael, and if he is among 10 Jews, Kidush es Hashem barabim, then he has sanctified God's name in public. Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah. Oh, he puts Daniel in there. That's even more shocking. And the reason why that's more shocking is because Daniel was never put in the situation where he had to bow down. So I don't know what case he's referring to here. Oh, there you go. He says, the footnote says, good, footnote guy comes in handy. Daniel, Sha'al Af, Gezeras Daryavesh, he's Palo El Hashem. Yeah, so Daryavesh is the one who banned tefillah, and Daniel still davened. So I guess that was considered Shas Hashmad. So it's not one incident it's talking about. And then Hanani, Mishael, Nazariah, they bow down to the idol. Okay, fine. Uka Rabbi Akiva v'chaverav, and like Rabbi Akiva and his friends. That was at the time of the Roman persecution.
Wait, is there a specific like halachic difference of it being barabim? Or like is there
I think it's just a bigger kiyum ha-mitzvah. It's a qualitatively different kiyum. I don't think there's a practical nafkamina. Oh, actually, there will be for the Chilul Hashem, I think. All right, the elu. Actually, I got to check about that. The elu hein harugi malchus she'ein ma'ala al ma'alasan. So these, meaning I guess the people who are mekadesh es Hashem barabim. I think he means only the people who are mekadesh es Hashem barabim. I don't think he means all mekadesh Hashem. Actually, no, maybe no. He maybe does mean all. You have elu hein. I'm not actually sure. I think he means all of them. These are the ones who are the harugi malchus she'ein ma'ala al ma'alasan, who have no level above their level. V'alehen nemar ki alecha horagnu kol hayom. Regarding them, it is said, we are killed for you all day. Nechshavnu kutzon tivcha. We are considered as sheep to the slaughter. That's in Tehillim. V'aleim nemar isfu li chasidai korsev risi ale zavach. Gather unto me my pious ones, those who seal my covenant upon an offering. I don't know exactly what that means. Yeah. Actually, let me just get a English translation. I want to see if that's like an idiom or something that I'm supposed to know. Tehillim Nun Hey. Nun Hey. Gather my devout ones unto me, sealers of my covenant through sacrifice. Yeah, Ale Zavach, as our scroll says, through sacrifice, meaning through sacrifice of themselves. Yeah. Side question here. I'm sure you've all heard this thing that like people who die al Kidush Hashem go straight to Olam Haba. I think people say that a lot, you know. So my question always is, and I don't have an answer to this, is like, does the Rambam hold that? Because the Rambam's whole mechanism for Olam Haba seems to have to do with your knowledge. And like, your actions really only bring you into Olam Haba insofar as it affects your soul. So it's very difficult for me to understand how an act of Kidush Hashem, Misa al Kidush Hashem per se, like affects your Olam Haba. That's just a general question. So I don't think we can answer it based on this, but it's a question of opinion. Yeah.
You're asking on the Rambam, right?
On the Rambam, yeah. Okay. Yeah, and I there's nothing to say that he has to hold by it. Although I do think in his Mamar Kidush Hashem, then I think he does say something like that, but I have to go check it out. Okay, let's do this the last part of this.
Wait, yeah. It's in this though. Doesn't he say there's no level?
Well, he says there's no level higher, but that doesn't mean Olam Haba.
Ooh.
Right? That I mean that doesn't necessarily mean Olam Haba. That just might mean that as an act of like Kidush Hashem, or as an act of, you know, being mechazik das emes, you know, something like that. That doesn't mean that your soul gets the highest level of Olam Haba.
Oh, okay. It sounds like he's talking about the people, though. No, the people are on the highest.
Right, the people, right. But not like the way I've heard it expressed is that like you get the ultimate portion in Olam Haba or something like that, you know. Okay. V'chol mi shenemar bo. Oh, and by the way, what the easiest answer is if the Rambam does hold by that, it might just be he holds that it's like one of those political beliefs, you know, that is encouraged, that you're going to get really high level in Olam Haba. You know, in the same way, it's like the opposite of, you know, Rambam has the things that you lose your chelik in Olam Haba for, literally, and then there's the things that Chazal say you lose your chelik in Olam Haba for in order to dissuade you from doing those actions. So it might be also that if there is a statement in Chazal that says that you get a high level in Olam Haba for Kidush Hashem. It might just be like to encourage you to do that or to show how important it is. Okay, last halacha in this section. Oh, so this is the difference now. Okay, this is a definitive answer. If it is said about you, Yeharig val Yavor, and you transgress, then that's a Chilul Hashem. But if it is said about you, Yavor val Yeharig, and you are killed, that's not a Chilul Hashem. And I think that's indisputable.
Right, you're just mischayev b'nafsho. You're
just mischayev b'nafsho. And that's kind of why I think, again, so now the two possibilities are either you're mischayev b'nafsho based on the mitzvah of Chilul Hashem, or you're mischayev b'nafsho because you let yourself be killed, you know? And I think the second answer is more probable because you're not being Mechal Hashem here.
Right, you could have, I mean, yeah, he very easily could have just said this is a Chilul Hashem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so now he says, V'im hayam ba'asar Yisrael, and if you allowed yourself, sorry, if you transgressed but were supposed to be killed and you were among 10 Jews, so then you've desecrated the name in public. U bitel mitzvah saseh, and you negated a mitzvah saseh, she Kidush Hashem, v'avar al mitzvah lo saseh, she Chilul Hashem. Now that's also weird, right? Does he mean that you're only mevatel the mitzvah saseh, and if it was barabim? No, it can't be, right? I mean, it has to be. Like, wait, I think a better punctuation would be semicolon. No, but then it would be tell. Yeah, right. It makes it sound like you're only mevatel Kidush Hashem and over on Chilul Hashem if it's barabim, doesn't it? I mean, you're certainly over on the law of Chilul Hashem if you're not in public. So it sounds like the only real chiddush is that you're being mevatel the mitzvahs to say, and that might actually explain the Sefer Mitzvos when he said in the Sefer Mitzvos. See, this sheds light on the Sefer Mitzvos then, because he said that the Kidush Hashem only applies in a ma'amad like Hanan and Misha and Azariah. But that's also not strictly speaking true, because we know that Kidush Hashem can apply even if you're in private.
Where do we see Kidush Hashem in private?
Because that is Chomi Shenemar Bo Yehareg Bo Yavor V'Nerag Lo Avar Harzeh Kidush Hashem. Yeah. And there he doesn't bother to say V'Kiyam Mitzvah Say, because that's obvious that you're being Mitzvah Say.
Also, it's weird that he says it like it's 3 different things. He says,
yes.
Right. What did you say? Harizeh Chilul Hashem barabim and Yitil Mitzvah Saseh and Aval Mitzvah Saseh.
Right. So maybe. Okay. So here's another way to read it. Maybe Chilul Hashem is a phenomenon, and it's also a lav, and maybe the lav only applies if it's barabim, but if you were not barabim and you were over, you still were mechalas Hashem. It's just you're not over the lav. Does that fit his words?
Yeah, he doesn't say you're mevatel mitzvah. He doesn't say that you're over on the losa. Say, in the first part.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Interesting thing. And we said something like that yesterday also, that the Kidush Hashem and Chilul Hashem are phenomena. Or we said that for Kidush Hashem is that it's a phenomenon, a real world phenomenon, but then there is a halakhic structure to it. And so let's say like the real Kidush Hashem, the Kiyum HaMitzvah, is being mechazik das ha'emes and like demonstrating avas Hashem, yichud Hashem. But there's a specific structure to the mitzvah of like giving up your life. Yeah, we'll have to think about that. Let's finish reading this though. Nevertheless, avar ba'ones, since he transgressed it through coercion, in malkinoso, he does not get malchus. Based in, and needless to say, the based in does not execute him. Afilo harag ba'ones, even if he killed someone else ba'ones. She'in malkin mamisin ela over birtsona be'edim v'hasra'a, because we only give malchus and executions for those who transgress voluntarily with witnesses and a warning. I set my face against that man. That's hagu, that man is only someone who is not coerced, not unintentional, and not erring. Yeah. Interesting. I mean, yeah, I don't know what to make of this. I mean, it sounds like the weird thing is he just doesn't say in the Kidush Hashem thing that you're Mekayim the Aseh. So like if I just had this halakha daled here, I would say obviously you're Mekayim the Aseh. That's what he means when he says Hazeh Kidush Hashem. But then what he says here, he differentiates between Mechalas Hashem and then Avar al Mitzvos Los Aseh Shechichil Hashem. That makes it sound like if you just say Chila es Hashem and Mekadosh es Hashem, then you're not automatically doing the mitzvah. You know, you're just doing the phenomenon. Sorry, iyun. Sorry, this is bekius here. Yeah. All right, so let's let that roll around for tomorrow. I think it's a good stopping place because then he starts talking about actually no, let's read this one more. Oh no, let's not. That's going to get into a different case. Yeah. Okay, so let's stop here for today. And I have decided that I'm going to give a chumash here tonight, but it's going to be not chumash methodology. It's going to be a chumash topic, and it might not be. We'll see how long it is. All right.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
You.
Yep. My pleasure. Bye.